We're looking at set 31161, the Medieval Dragon. As you know, LEGO has recently came out with several medieval themed sets, most notably the Lion's Castle. And later this year, they're going to have another LEGO creator set that's based on the castle theme. And of course, that's a follow-up to the set that came out 2 years ago. Why am I so excited about this one? As you may have seen the Dungeons and Dragons set that came out last year, the dragon that came with that set was kind of not up to a lot of our expectations. So what did LEGO do? They released this set. You're not only getting one dragon, but you actually get two dragon builds in this one set. And of course, if dragon's not your cup of tea, there's a Phoenix build that you can make out of the same set. So let's take a look at this box. The box itself tells you that it has 715 pieces, which is actually not bad for a set this size nowadays for LEGO's offerings. In the back, you can see up close how and what each of these builds will look like when you're finished. As you can see that for the dragon and the phoenix, there's some articulations in the wing and then on the legs of the dragon. Whereas the sea serpent here, or or Loch Ness monster, whatever you want to call it, there's some articulation in the rear part of the build and also in the mouth. You'll also notice that they differentiate the two builds of both the dragon and the sea serpent with a different type of mouth compared to the one that's inside the dragon. Now let's open this up. I'm just going to take a knife. I'm not going to puncture it. I like to keep things as pristine as possible. So I'm just going to cut open this tab here. Okay. And I'm going to take the contents out. Here we go. I'll lay it out. So, as you can see, like any creator set, it comes with 3 sets of instructions for 3 separate builds. So, out of the 3 build, we got the Phoenix, Sea Serpent, and the Dragon. We're going to focus on this guy today. So, as you can see right in front of me, I have 5 bags. Each bag is numbered. And I will do the build today in this video. So let's start with bag number 1. What I'm going to open it up. Take out the pieces. Take out the little bag. And empty the contents. Like so. So this is where you start. I'm going to go on to the book here. It's pretty straightforward, And I will build all this according to the instructions. So don't mind my being silent. I'm just gonna get this done and then I'm gonna move on to the next step and I'll make a little commentary afterwards. Okay, that's it for this base. jewel pieces goes inside the chest. And you close it. Put the lock down. And then take the base back. And put it right about here. So now we have the base completed. We're going to put this aside. And we're going to go onto the dragon itself now. Interesting how they put the eye pieces right in the middle of this torso build. As you can see, the body's coming along quite nicely. These are fairly recent pieces that came out in the LEGO brick inventory. A lot of uses. You can make joints and articulation, whereas before you need like a large brick like this to make legs and arms and whatnot. So, welcome addition in my humble opinion. So that's it for bag one. You can see that the torso is coming along quite nicely, and then you have your base of the treasure chest where the dragon is going to guard it. Let's move on to bag number two. So I set this all aside here. Here's bag number two. So I'll open it up. You may notice that I don't sort the pieces before I build it. I'm very old school. Came from a time when bags weren't even numbered. I like it this way. It feels more pure, more personal, just to be able to sort through the bricks as you build the model. So right now, I'm going to continue on with step number 20 on bag two. So again, these are new pieces. You'll find these are relatively new additions to the LEGO offerings, and yeah, it's something that I actually look forward to seeing in future sets. So this is pretty much a new ratchet assembly that you can use for larger builds, like say bigger animals and mechas, and maybe other like applications, like say maybe for a smaller AT-AT in your Star Wars set. I can definitely see applications to this. They use the old-fashioned Technic pin to provide a connection port on the inside. So you can see the buildup is there just to give the dragon the form. This is very reminiscent of the cat build that they had out recently, where the body is built up very similar to how this model is made. So as you can see with this step, it gives the dragon abdomen, the belly part, some definition with these circular understud pieces. So with these side studs, this is the reason why they put it there, so that you can mount these plates on a side like this. Just you gotta be a little careful, because there's always that intuition for this to finish to complete the curve, but in this case, it's supposed to kind of mirror the orientation of this plate here. So when you build that, just be mindful of it. And again, here's the use of the tile pieces to give it that scaling effect on your dragon. So a lot of times they would just use a print, but in this case, it looks like Lego went the extra mile to model it so that when you build it, it actually gives you that texture onto your overall model. So for me, I think this is a bonus. I'd like to see more models using this type of design philosophy, so that, you know, in the future when you do have a diorama or whatnot, it looks a little bit more menacing. It gives it that depth to the model overall. So again, as you can see, there is that build up here. And if you are one of those people who want to make sure everything line up, you can do so. But for me, I think it looks a little bit more organic if the scales are not completely lined up perfectly. So I kind of would leave it a little bit askew in some parts, just to give it that feeling to it. Do the same thing on the other side. This is basically a mirror image of that, the last several steps I built. And again, just make sure that when you build this side, if you have a set, if you have the set, to make sure the spacing is just right, because there's a lot of nuances to this set that you can see. As you can see, this is a perfect mirror image of the other side that we've done earlier. Voila. So this is what we have so far. Okay. Here's a relatively new piece for those of you who hasn't seen it before. Like that. So with this one, you gotta kind of be careful, because you need to give that space here for this peg to be able to peg into the port, which will come later. So be mindful that when you put this piece, make sure that it's exactly one stud over where the port is, where this peg is, so it goes into the port. Again, very much like the body, this part also uses the mirroring positioning of these quarter round tiles. Okay, so that's what this step looks like. Really enjoy how they use these shield pieces that we found first in Nexo Knights and the assembly square modular. I didn't really think they would use this a lot, but I'm actually glad that they incorporate this into their later set designs. Remember a time when the sand green just the color is a very rare piece to get, but glad they're using this more and more as part of their palette for their later models. So as you can see, there's some replication or repetition in the design, at least in the steps. So again with the shields, in this case you got to make sure both sides has the same orientation, because if you don't, it's going to look kind of strange. Okay, so once you have this connected to form the first segment of the tail. Now here's where it gets a little tricky, because these are all articulation points, so you don't want to misalign your ball joints so that when you connect them together it doesn't match up. So be a little mindful when you put this together at this point. Okay. There's more of this design pattern here, and then same thing on the other side. So again, make sure that when you put this together, they're in opposing directions. Otherwise, it's going to look a little strange. Okay, so at this point, I would like to make sure that the joints are applied properly. So if they're not put in together right, you won't be able to articulate these three segments. So right now, as you can see, it articulates. So it's been put together properly. Okay, again, make sure that the piece is put together in the right direction, like so. And then you put it into a right slot. So this is a little confusing because as you can see, there's two ports, but there's only one ball. There's not a mistake, it's just the way that this is designed. So when you put it in there, you can put it down here, but it would be best for you to line it up so that there's more of an organic look to it. And this is, as you can see, the segments are starting to taper into a smaller piece, into a smaller tip end. And again, check for articulation just to make sure that when you put it together is correct. Now this is a very interesting use of a rocket booster piece that you normally find in space Lego. In this case, it's used as the barb end of the dragon's tail. So you put this in here, and then make sure you use the round stud with the hole in the middle, because if you don't, you won't be able to fit it at the end of the tail here. Okay, like so. Like this. Okay. Of course, use the pin, slot it in properly, because there are grooves inside this cone piece. Once you do that, carefully push it in so not all these other pieces will pop off. Like that. So to continue off the belly design, you put these inverted towel pieces onto the end. And then when all that is done, just snap the tail to the main body, like so. Next, you want to put the spikes on the back of the dragon, just to finish off that look. So all these jumper pieces that we put on earlier, it's there for you to have a space for you to put all these stud pieces, or these pyramid pieces onto the jumper stud, like so. Make sure you have all 8 of them put in. Now, I do have one complaint about this design. As you can see on this joint here, and it's not put on wrong, it's just the way that it is modeled. When you articulate this, right, there's a good chance for you to pop it off. So be careful when you're building that. And once you have everything put into the right place, this is what your dragon should look like so far. Okay, as you can see, the tail turns, or it rotates 360 degrees. And then the other segment, they all can pose like a snake. It doesn't turn. It doesn't go up and down. It can go side to side. And even with that, there's like limited articulation. So these are the pieces that's left from bag 2. Going to put this aside for now. So we can go on to bag 3. And again, make sure that when you do build this together, like put this together, everything's in the right spot, because as an articulating piece, you won't be able to move or pose if you don't have it in the right spot, or you don't have the pieces in the right spot. Bag number 3. Already I can tell you that this dragon, this build, is better than the D&D set. For several reasons. Like just the look, the design of it itself is so much more, I guess, together, more unified. And the color scheme is obviously a lot better than the red dragon, right? And the red dragons, I guess the proportions, it didn't seem quite right when you put it together. Whereas this so far, it looks pretty good. We'll see how it looks like after all this is put together and kind of make a judgment call then. So taking out all the bags, all the contents out of the bags right now, we go on to step number 3. I really like how they use a heart piece for this one step here. A ratchet joint, as you can see. This can bear some weight if your model has some beef to it and you want it to be able to move. And then for this, stops off with another heart piece, like so. And then another shield covers it up, like that. And then you'll see yet another use of the scale element, or the quarter circle element, where the tiles kind of reminds you of a dragon scale pattern, like so. Again, much better than using prints. Okay, like so, and then you turn it around like that. Put another shield piece right here, like so. Then you'll see there's more of these mini pyramids being used as a design feature. Okay, Put it here, like so. Okay, and again, the instructions stress the fact that you need to be careful which joint you put in. So this is the right joint to put in. So another good use of slope pieces, right here, that further invokes the idea that, you know, this is the texture of the dragon. Then you have these spiky pieces that normally you would see these pieces being used as teeth. But in this case, later on in this video, you can see that they're not going to use them as teeth. They'll use something else that's completely different. Here is another interesting part of this build. You see this? This is normally used as part of some sort of floral or vegetation, but in this case, it's being used as part of the dragon. So there's some interesting design elements in this build so far. Like so. Okay. Oh, miss a step. Gotta put the jagged parts on the side, like so. Like that. Okay. Now once you have this part, this goes on to this piece that we built before. Put it like so. Like that. Okay. Then more use of the slope pieces, as you can see. What this does is that it kind of ties it together like that. So it doesn't fall apart. Like even though you had the stud on the bottom, as I mentioned in my previous video, it's always more stable if you have another piece to lock your model in place. Okay. And over here, they're actually reinforcing that with yet another piece to lock that part in place like that. Okay. So it doesn't look like it now, but this is actually a leg. It's a leg of the dragon. So I'm gonna take the main body, snap it on the side. On the back here, you gotta be careful because you got two ports. This goes on the back. So snap it in and twist it downward like this. So as you can see, it's coming along quite nicely. And it even tells you that you want to hear the click when you move the ratchet so that you know you install it correctly. Okay, so now we're just going to do the mirror image of what we've done before, more or less. Put this together. And again, when you put the joint in, make sure that is the right piece. If this looks familiar, it's because it's the exact mirror image of the leg that we put in together. So that's actually another way to know that you're doing this right, because if it is done properly, everything else should more or less be identical to the previous component that we've built. So the only thing that's different, of course, is what you put onto it. Okay, like so. Again, they're using the part of the plant as part of the dragon. Put that in. Make sure you orient it in the right direction. And then once you're done that, snap that in on the side like that. So even though this part is not similar, this part is. So that's how you know that you're doing this properly. It looks like they have a bit of asymmetry on the thigh part, or the upper thigh, but not on the lower thigh. More Nexonite pieces, and this is where the Technic pin with the stud at the end comes into play. So you gotta make sure that when you put it in there, it fits right onto it. Okay, so this would go on the front now. It's a very similar build, and it should be because it's the front leg. Okay, it's shorter, but it's about the same. Okay, So going back, now we're going to do the left side. So very similar to what we did before. We're going to put this together. Of course, this is going to be a mirror image because it is the other side. Now, the best part about doing this is that once you remember and kind of know how to do one side, you kind of have all the puzzles, I guess you call it, have that figured out. So you don't have to work as hard to figure out how to put the pieces in if you're not experienced. So again, very much like the other, the left leg, this is both very similarly, like so. And this is where I talk about the shield being used. Again, I really love that piece. In fact, so far the dragon, it looks like it kind of takes pieces from the Nexo Knight sets that you would see from like 5 to 10 years ago. It's kind of apt because Nexo Knight is a fusion of old Lego's theme and old castle themes. So having this being a part of this Neo Castle lineup, I think is very apt. Okay, more use of these little mini pyramids. I have to say, like, you know, when you press down on it, try not to put too much force into it because it does poke into you, so just be careful. Again, make sure you have the right joint. Snap that in. And the slope pieces acting as scales, like that. Put these elements in. Again, with the leafy flower part, you would just use that as part of the dragon. Snap that in. Then now put this on the side like so. Like that. Again, very much like the other side. Gotta make sure everything snaps into place so that it stays put. And then once that's done, you take your dragon, put it on this side, put it in place, like so. Now, you'll notice that it doesn't come together perfectly here. And it's not supposed to be. You know, when you see an animal, like you don't see them like flush like the front leg like this. The back leg, typically because of the hip area, it's going to splay out a little bit. So if you get something like this is what you want. And again, you want to hear for the click sound once you put the piece into the body, because that's how you know it snaps into place. Otherwise, it's just going to fall out, or it doesn't articulate very well because it doesn't lock into the ratchet piece right here. Okay, so moving on to the front leg. Another thing to notice, you may notice that there's already 123 steps at this point. It is not a complicated build per se, but it's very step and design, and it's very design intensive. So it's a very welcome and very refreshing build if you want something simple but not too complicated. The only complicated part I would say about this build is you got to make sure where everything's oriented when you build it, because otherwise it wouldn't fit properly. You would probably find out when you put together the dragon after you're finished at some point. So just keep an eye out on that. Again, using the elements that we've seen before, put this together. Oops, this fell out. There you go. Put these pieces in. Oops. Slippery suckers. Like so. This piece, make sure it aligns, put it in there, put it on the side like so. Give me a sec. Appears I'm missing a piece here somewhere. Oh. I know what happened. This is the wrong color. There we go. Like that. Very much like the other leg, put the shields onto the Technic pig with a stud at the end. And then once you're done that, take this and snap it into place. Make sure you hear the click. Then set the leg like that. So at this point, when you've done everything correctly, this is what it should look like. You'll see that the dragon's coming along. Yeah, again, make sure the articulation works. As you can see, they do. You can hear the ratchet clicking. That's how you know you got this built properly. Okay. One thing I do have to warn you, and you can see what happened earlier in this video. I did put in the wrong color. So when you do put in the pieces, make sure you have the right green so that it doesn't look too asymmetrical when you put the entire set together. Now, this is what's left for bag 3. You have 3 pieces. And in total, this is all that's left over from the set so far. Now we'll move on to bag number 4. Again, going to take out the contents. Pour it out. So this little bag. Take that out. And we'll begin step number 4. So as you can see, the pieces are fairly consistent for all the bags, which is good. Like typically when you have a set, like sometimes you have a bag where there's like a few pieces and then another bag you have tons of pieces. This one, the distribution seems to be fairly even. So I like that. Okay. This also is a relatively new piece. I mean, it's been around for a little while, but it's always welcome to see a piece like this being used. So right now what we're doing is we're building the dragon head. Okay. So this is the basis of the head, and then now you're going to build the spines coming out of it. Or sorry, not the head, the feet. And you're going to build the spines out coming out from it, or the claws coming out from it. Like this. And then put the claws on it, like that. So in this case, the feet of the dragon, each part, each foot, they're identical. So you just built 4 of them as indicated in this drawing. So I'm just gonna go back. Do that. That's all it means. You just have to build 4 of these. So I typically like to kind of like do them like all of them at the same time. Now that you've seen how it's done, like how one of them is done, I'm just gonna put them all, like all the other 3 all together at the same time. So because they're identical, just look for the pieces that you need, put it together, and then you would have the finished product once that's completed. Gotta find the other little slope piece right there. Like so, and then put toes up. I call them spines earlier. I meant to say toes. And put the claws in. Like that. Okay, so here's the back pair. I'm just gonna use them as the back pair. So, and same thing with the front now. Put that together. These pieces are a little slippery for me, so aligning them, it's going to take a little bit extra time, but once you have them aligned, they will look like a dragon's paw, or feet, if you want to call them that. So one thing that makes this stand out is even the toes are articulated. You can move them left and right, and in the middle one, it can be moved up and down. So all four of these are identical. You can move the toes like this and move it down like this. Unfortunately, you can't, they're not set up so you can grab something with the feet, but that's fine. So you have four of your paws right there. You can set it up however you like. I'm just gonna spread them apart a little bit like this just to make them look a little bit more menacing than it should be. So once you have all four put together, snap them onto the ball joint on the end of each of the feet that you've already made. So be careful when you assemble them because you don't want them to pop out and fly everywhere. So what I do is I would take the back of the leg and just kind of pop them in like this, just to give you a little bit more control when you put them together. So here you have it. The bottom part of the dragon is now complete. As you can see, it's fairly sturdy. It's very stable. It doesn't fall apart. The ball joint allows for articulation along with the ratchets that's in it. So again, just check for the articulation just to make sure that when you put it together, it's put together properly. Okay. In ball joint, make sure you have the right ball joint. In this case, this is not the right ball joint. You need to use this type, the one in the ball without the ender. So you gotta be careful. They look the same at first glance, but you need to use the right type. So once you have that, it should look like that. Another segment on its way to completion. Put that aside. Do the same thing. This is more or less a similar element, not identical, but very similar. So now in this case, this is where you use the ball joint. You use this type of ball joint with both the male and female ends. Because if you use it on this one, you got to take them out and use the right piece. Okay. Now put the two segments together. That's what you should get. Again, make sure you test the articulation just to make sure you got everything in right. It even says so on the instruction here. So that's how you know you put it on together properly. So moving on to the next step. Now this is a little different. They're actually using a hinge piece for you to kind of put the two sides together. In this case, you got to bend it at a certain angle before you snap it in. Otherwise, it wouldn't fit. So this is what you do. Oops. Okay. And then once you have this side done, simply flip it over and repeat. This time is a little easier because your angle for this part is already set. So all you have to do is just snap it in. So at this point, what happens is this hinge on the side, it locks the angle in. So your articulation, if you've done it properly, should not be able to move. So it's kind of like the reverse of what we've done before, except in this case, we want to make sure it doesn't move. And most of the time when LEGO does this is because they want to make some parts of your model stiff so it doesn't move and it provides more stability. Okay, and then continuing off with the previous belly motif, you add this inverse round tile. And also continuing with the previous motif, you have this plate with a spike at the end, just to continue the motif of the back of the dragon, like so. Okay. Now this is where you got to be careful, because this curved piece that you're coming up with, it's going to be right over the ball joint. So, and it's only supported by 2 studs. So if you kind of like rush through it, this will come off. So you want to just be very careful you don't lose that piece. Okay, so now the neck is done. What you do is you take these double ball joints, put it onto these sockets up here, snap it in, make sure the green inverted tile, it matches with the chest area, and then just snap it in. You should hear that snap, and just position the body this way and put the neck down so that you can move on to the next step. Okay, so this part is it's going to be like another part of the segment for your dragon. Put it together like so. Here's yet another ball joint, or sorry, a socket for the ball joint. Put it here. So the claws, in this case, becomes the scales. You can see. Oops. Like that. So you can see it's coming along quite nicely. And then this arc piece is used to bridge these 2 sides and snap them together. So with this, you snap it on here, like that. Make sure it clicks in properly. So you may have seen this set in a store, and one of the things I've noticed is that instead of using teeth, like this is typically used for your dragon teeth. In this case, they use these clip pieces. So if you follow our channel and watch our previous videos, you will remember my making, I guess, ways to see pieces that you have available in a set and make it fit to what you need for your model. In this case, they did exactly that. So typically something like this is used to connect, you know, either like like some sort of like tool or a little accessory piece, or even they're used to use this to make joints and whatnot. You would also see that in my past videos. In this case, they choose to use this as teeth, which is, you know, pretty innovative. And this goes here. Now I'm gonna finish this part. So again, they're using the clips in this case to form the horns of the dragon. So that's one on one side. And then on the other is a mirror image. Seem to use a lot of mirror images in their instructions. So if you've done this properly, this is how the head should look like so. Okay. And now you put the pieces over just to give the dragon a brow look. Now this is also interesting because these pieces are typically used as part of a flower build. But in this case, as you can see, it's being used to give the contour to the head of the dragon. So instead of using it as a kind of like a leafy feature, it's used as part of a piece that would give the brow some definition. So once this is done, this is how your dragon head should look like. And then of course, you carefully fit it into the ball joint of the piece, and you can check to see whether or not you fit it together right by rotating it left and right, moving the jaws up and down like so. And of course, there's some limited rotation or movement in the horn like that. That's how you know you've done it properly. In the instructions, it shows that the horn goes back a little bit. I personally like it raised a little bit just to give that menacing look to him. So that's it for bag 4. And these pieces in front of you, that's all there's left. About 6 pieces. So now we move on to our final bag, number 5. Okay, you'll notice that it's mostly red in this case. And this is because this bag is used to build the wings and the other extremities that's part of the dragon. Take out all the content. In this case, you'll see there's 2 little baggies in this final bag. We're going to take all that out. That one kind of got away there. I have to say, this is one of the more interesting builds that I actually put together in a while. Not because it's complicated or anything, but it's just a technique to kind of show a dragon has all these features, all the textures, all the design, the anatomy. It has all that. It doesn't feel overwhelming, but at the same time, it's a good size. It's a good, and more importantly, it's minifig scale. So minifig is typically about this high, and it's a really good comparison to the size of this dragon. I can see why a lot of people are excited about it, because you can put this with your other LEGO sets, past and present, where you have a castle as your main theme. So let's go on. I'm going to put this together again. Oh, look at that. There's a red shield piece. Like that. Gonna move these aside just to make finding the pieces a little easier. Like so. So as you can see, the wing is starting to take shape. And of course, you're right to expect it to be built again, but in a mirror image fashion. So now the main differences you can see so far between this build and the Dungeons and Dragons build is that the shape of this wing is a lot more substantial. There's a lot more meat to this. So for you to kind of like look at this and go, okay, well, you know, is this going to be like really big and chunky for what it is? It's like, it might be, but we'll see how it goes as we keep at this. So this actually reinforces the wing because before there was not a lot of connection points to keep it stable. Now, as you can see, this is 1 brick high. So it's quite a difference to the Dungeons and Dragons set. The dragons in the Dungeons and Dragons set. So a little note here, this piece goes to the understud of the main wing assembly. So don't put it over, but put it under. Okay, we'll continue with the wing construction. They have these under jumpers. Okay, again, you have this one protruding piece which goes under, like so. Okay, don't put it over, put it under. And finally, the last segment of this part of the wing. Make sure your wing pieces are oriented properly, so that it wouldn't cause you problems later. In terms of both function and look. So as you can see, the wing, it kind of suggests a dragon wing simply by using like the aircraft wing pieces. Again, it goes back to what I was telling you everybody in the previous videos. Just because a piece is designed for a certain model, it doesn't mean that it cannot be used for something that's completely different from that model. In this case, it went from a machine build piece, which is the wing, to a totally organic build. Okay, so we keep going. I'm going to put this aside for now. And as you can see, this is going to be the final wing segment for the dragon on this side of the build. Now, in this case, put this protruding piece to the bottom of the round tile. You got to be careful with this because right now it's not a very stable build. So when you handle it, make sure you put some pressure on the bottom so the wing pieces don't fall apart. Because right now, all the stability is clipped onto the bottom of the wing and not on the top. Okay, once you have that down, you need these tile pieces to provide a stability on the top so that the wings don't fall off of their own weight. So like this. So as you can see now, the wings can articulate, or the wing segments can articulate and they don't fall down. So that's what you want to have if you put this together properly. Now for the accent. So they use these red pieces to further, not just to stabilize the wing and the joint where it's mounted to, but to give that color for the dragon so that it gives it an interest, a visual interest. And then you further put this in by snapping it with these smooth tile pieces. Now for this one, make sure you only have one stud exposed at the end of these spines. Otherwise, it wouldn't be built properly. So this is how the spines should look if you assemble these tiles onto the wing properly. Okay. Because you need it for putting these clippers on at the end. Like so. Otherwise, you wouldn't have that space, right? And then once you're done that, put on these rubbery claw pieces onto that clip, like that. So again, if you have it put on properly, this is what it should look like. Once you put the end tip on, it's starting to look more and more like a dragon, right? So now we complete this. Put this over like so. One, two, three, and then put this together like so. So this is what your wing should look like if you put it together like properly. And then you kind of finish it off. Just find another one of these red pieces. Like that. And then you find another one of these slope pieces. Just to clip on at the end here to give it the stability, like that. Okay. And then you add some of these pieces here to give it that visual, that visual feature, the detail, just to make it look a little bit more organic. And then now you flip it over. Do the same thing. Just finish it off. Like so. And then at the end, use these inverted brown tiles. Like so. And then, now here's the tricky part. You have to push these in. It's another ratchet piece. So make sure they're aligned, because if they're not aligned and you try to put it into the hole here, it's going to be difficult for you. So make sure it's aligned, okay? Anytime you have one of these, make sure they're aligned so that when you push the pegs in, it goes right in. So you don't have to struggle with it. Okay, and then get more pieces to finish off the tip, like that. You put it here, like so. So once that's done, you take the entire assembly, match it with the hole here, and push it in until you hear a click sound. Like that. And again, to make sure that you've done it properly, that you assemble this properly, test it out. Okay? Not just at the ratchet point, but make sure the wings can be articulated like that. Okay? So very much like all the other parts of the dragon so far, you got to make the mirror image. So we're going to finish that part, and then we're going to have a closer look at this build. Okay, again, keep in mind, this piece, the exposed plate, goes under, not over. And then the final wing segment goes right here. Okay, once you have that, add the stabilizing elements onto it so that the wing segments don't come off because of their own weight. And then you add the accent element onto each of the wings. Again, this is not necessary, but it shows how it does give that dragon that unique and distinct look to it. You know, it doesn't really matter if this is the same color or a different color, but because it is done in a different color, it makes it stand out a bit more. So that's actually some of the design that I really like about the set. In fact, I'm actually looking quite forward to displaying on this. Hopefully, I don't do anything, stupid like dropping this. Because as you can see, this, even though it's not a complicated set, it does take some time and take some precision in building this, because you can't just, slap the pieces on anywhere. So you do want to be careful and not not drop it or, do anything like that. So I'm gonna, again, do the same thing as I did with the other wing. Put the spiky pieces on the clips. Like that. Snap them in. Like so. And again, not hard, it just, you gotta be precise, so you don't mess up anything. And then put these half circles on top. Like so. And then this on. Like so. Just a little comment, like you can see, like some parts of it carries on from the leg design, so the aesthetic matches throughout the entire build. Okay, not just the color, not just the shape or the symmetry, but just some of the design elements. It carries forward to the next part of the build. So you can look at it and see it as an organic dragon. Kind of like us, like, our left side more or less looks like our right hand side. Okay, and then add these elements onto there just to stabilize the wing so it don't pop off when you want to pose it. like so. That's important. Okay. Now to add the joints on, and again, make sure that the pieces line up so when you insert them into the port, you can just snap it right on instead of struggling with it afterwards. So in this case, I want to make sure that it lines up, goes into a hole, snap, like that. Okay. Don't forget this last piece, the spine on the top. Like so. Okay. Very much like the left hand side, your right hand side should snap right onto this joint. And when you do it right, you should hear a snap. There we go. And again, just to make sure you've done this right, give it, just articulate the wing like that. Like so. That's how you know you did it properly. And that brings us to the end of our build. So if you follow the instructions properly, this is what your dragon should look like. And this is the treasure that it guards. And all the pieces that's remaining is what you see here. You have a combination of pins, curved pieces, you have specialized pieces. In my set, I have 19 remaining pieces, which is not bad. In some cases, like in some of the larger sets, you have tons of extra remaining pieces at the end. In this case, all you have is these little bit of pieces. And considering that the fact that you have 2 other builds, this is actually a pretty good ratio. I actually like this dragon a lot. It's not just good to look at. If you want to use it for your castle, you can actually pose it in different action poses. So, as you can see, it stands pretty well. Even with the wings spread out the way it is, the weight doesn't bog it down. It doesn't make it so that it tips over. And more importantly, it's stable. So I can put the wing up like this. I can put the wing down like this. Put both wings down. This thing has quite a wingspan, as you can see. And the tail is the same thing. You can move it left and right, up and down. I do have to warn you, this joint here is quite tricky because you might think that you can move it down because you have 2 ball joints, but it doesn't actually let you do that. It actually locks it in place so that the only articulation you get is left and right, like so. Okay, head articulation, same thing. You can't move this left and right even though it's on a ball joint, but on the head itself, the articulation is there. Finally, if you look at the legs, the joints are very stiff, but I have to warn you, unfortunately, these joints aren't as stiff as I like them to be. You can't make this dragon stand on his back leg without having it droop over. These ratchets are just not strong enough. I kind of wish that they used the same ratchets they did with the wings, but these are kind of like your run-of-the-mill ratchets, and they do the job just to stand up the dragon. Same thing with the front legs. The front legs use the same ratchet. You can splay them, but they don't really support a lot of weight, especially if you want to make the dragon kind of stand up on the hind legs. You can make it crouch down a little bit, but again, because of the limits of the articulation range, you can only do so much. So as you can see, this is what the dragon can do. They can look down on the knight that you can set in front of him, and he can look down at him and get ready to breathe fire on him just because the knights and his army or whatever, they're too close to the treasure. Would I recommend this for anybody? Yes. This is, again, I'm going to say this again, is not a difficult build. It looks complicated, but at the end, the instruction makes this very easy to build. It's a very good play piece. It looks great. And would I put this on my shelf? Yes. In fact, I can't wait to put this up on my shelf. It's one of the prettier sets that came out in a long time. I can't wait until I get the castle built so I can put this in the background. or put it in a foreground or put it in a diorama setting. So I do have to I do have to give Lego kudos so that this set is compatible with its previous sets as well in terms of theme. Is it menacing? Of course it is. And the last thing I do want to mention is that even though it is a Lego toy, a lot of these pieces, they stay on pretty well. So even if you kind of drop them a little bit, it doesn't come off. It droops a little, right? But I don't expect this to break easily. If you drop it, it probably comes off. A few of these pieces would come off. I really don't think it's gonna break apart, simply because of the fact that this is quite well designed, it's quite sturdy. So I'm gonna end here. If you like what you see here today, hit the subscribe button, hit the like, and tell people about it. I'll be building more of these in the future for you to look at, and we'll talk more about Lego.